My name is Angela Sauchuk. I'm the program director at Instituto Franklin-UAH de Alcalá. It's a real pleasure to join you today and welcome you to the second part of Crossing Cultures First-Person Success Stories. We truly believe that initiatives like this help build bridges, spark meaningful conversations, and highlight the value of diverse experiences and perspectives. And now, without any further ado, I'm delighted to hand the session over to Montserrat Dominguez, who will be moderating this panel.
Okay, so welcome to this second panel on the life, the experiences, the careers, the goals and the dreams of these five people who are here today. Since you are five and not four like the previous panel, I remind you that you have 10 minutes, more or less. If you can make it shorter, the better, to give us your personal experience about the project, what this change of cultures means to you, what you have learned from your different backgrounds while you're being here in Spain, from your colleagues, from your experience. I don't like to interrupt our opponents when you start speaking, but I will do if you go further than these 10 minutes. But I really much appreciate if you could keep it short, so maybe we can interact together and maybe we have the option for you, the public here, to ask any question or make any remarks about your experiences. So, first of all, Scott Rufkin, Director of Space Studies at Southwest Research Institute in Boulder, Colorado, and Fulbright Senior Scholar at CSIC, Centro de Astrobiología, in Torrejón de Ardoz. He investigates planetary atmospheres, especially Mars, the red planet, in which he is specialist and his focus is a red planet. We were speaking about proteins and food that can travel, and can feed us. Maybe some of these connections will work out. We'll do the session in English. Please feel free also to use some Spanglish. I guess you will all appreciate that. So, Scott, and you can speak from your seat or you want to come up here, wherever you feel more comfortable.
Bueno.
Scott.
Gracias. Tengo diapositivas. Let's see. Bueno, okay. So, I get from the action, probably most of you are familiar with the movie The Unexpected Journey with The Hobbit, or have seen it.
This is AI?
It is
Okay,
AI,
right.
yes, I use it. Of course, this is the story of Bilbo, who the reluctant traveler, who is coerced by a wizard to go on a rather incredible quest with a bunch of ill-tempered dwarves to reclaim their homeland from a dragon. So it really was an unexpected journey, and in many ways, where I am now, right here, has also been an unexpected journey. I am not a hobbit. I do enjoy a second breakfast now and then. I don't know any wizards. I have not traveled with dwarves, but I have encountered and gone on my journey with lots of really amazing people who have shaped and been contributed to all my experiences and success that allows me to sit here. So let me start my story, the Historia. In 1997, I had just received my PhD from Colorado State University in atmospheric science. I took a tenure track faculty position at San Jose State University in the Department of Meteorology, and I immediately began to struggle with finding a compelling problem or thing that I could hang my career on, my future career. And right at that time, just so happened, NASA had landed the Mars Pathfinder rover and Mars Pathfinder mission, which had a meteorology, very simple meteorology station on it that measured pressure and temperature of Mars. Now, I was an Earth atmospheric scientist. I knew nothing about Mars, but I thought, wow, this is kind of interesting. I wonder if anybody is using the modeling tools that I use for Earth to study Mars. And I talked to a colleague at the university. She said, you know, you should go talk to my colleague just up the street at NASA Ames Research Center. They do Mars stuff. Okay. So we arranged a meeting and I went up there and I spoke with a gentleman, Bob Haverly, And he was really fascinated by the idea of applying these Earth tools to Mars. And he gave me a very small $15,000 little grant to study the idea of using these tools and ultimately to write a proposal to NASA. So he was my Gandalf. He started this whole crazy adventure. Mars? What are you talking about? Right? I do Earth. So off I go. And it turned out that proposal to NASA was successful. And so off I went. And in just a matter of a few years, I had won some more grants and was doing some wonderful work on Mars, and it took over my life. And I left Earth behind, and I became a Martian. Okay, so at the same time, though, my wife and I, and we at that point had a young daughter, just about 2, we were really getting tired of San Jose. It was hard for us to live there. This was at the height of the dot-com explosion. Things were expensive, and I was also getting a little frustrated with the academy and the bureaucracy, and I really just felt like it was holding me back. And so, you know, we made a decision, and we said, you know what, we've got to get out. We've got to get out. And just that very same day we made that decision, I went on what was then the internet and found a position that had just opened up back in Boulder, Colorado at Southwest Research Institute, looking for a Mars atmospheric scientist. The description was me. It's like they wrote it for me. Wow, okay, what chance? Okay, so I apply, I interview, I get the job, boom, 2003, we land back in Boulder, Colorado, which we love Colorado, we're glad to be back. Okay, what does any of this have to do with Spain and Fulbright? At that same time, the Mars exploration program was really ramping up, okay? And the next big mission on the plate of NASA was the Mars Science Laboratory rover Curiosity. And this is where Spain comes in. Space exploration and these missions are fundamentally international, right? All over, especially ESA, the European Space Agency, and NASA collaborate on these things all the time. The United States and Spain cut a deal, and they agreed to have Spain provide the meteorology station, the meteorology experiment that was going to go on this rover. INTA, the Instituto Nacional de Técnica Aeroespacial, was going to build the engineering part of this, and my science colleagues at the Astrobiology Center were going to be the leads. Okay, very cool for me, except I'm not Spanish, right? So I really didn't have a major part of this, but it just so happened I was part of another experiment that was also going to fly on this rover that measured radiation for humans. And by virtue of being there, I could then freely interact with my colleagues in Spain and any other thing. So I had my in to start collaboration with Spain on this meteorology experiment. I was very excited about that. Okay, so here you can see on the rover here, there's the little REMS station, the Rover Environmental Monitoring Station. That's what Spain was going to build and provided, and they did. So MSL, Curiosity, landed in 2012. In 2013, we had our first meeting in Alcalá de Henares of the Spanish team meeting, and you can see there's just a couple of Americanos there. I'm one of them. As you can see, I haven't aged a bit. It was at that meeting, that's when I realized, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to be successful and participate, I'm going to have to go all in. I can't just be the American that shows up once a year at a meeting or sits on the telephone. I'm going to have to go all in. I'm going to have to brush back up on my Spanish language, which at that point was very rudimentary. And I was also lucky because at my Southwest Research Institute, I had tremendous freedom. I could travel when I wanted, I could go where I wanted, and I did. And I started making regular trips to Spain, at least twice a year, sometimes more frequently, developing relationships, friendships, interacting with my Spanish colleagues, because the thing is, when we were in a meeting, everybody's speaking English. As soon as you step out, it's Spanish. As soon as they're having coffee, it's Spanish. As soon as they're in their office, it's Spanish, right? And you're missing out on those opportunities if you cannot communicate, if you can't understand. I had to do this. And so I began back, 20-some years ago now, on this journey to become this. A couple of years after this, I was at Cobb visiting, and a student there, Jorge Pla Garcia, came to me and said, Scott, in Spanish, of course, Scott, I would like to do my PhD at the University Complutense in Madrid, and I would like to do Mars atmosphere stuff. I'd like to use model. Would you be willing to serve on my committee for this? I said, absolutely, Jorge, I would love to do that. And so I did. And Jorge graduated with his PhD in 2018, Dr. Jorge Pla Garcia now. He and I, we developed a very strong collaboration over the years. We did many papers together and continue to do so. But more importantly, he has become one of my absolute best friends in the world. And through him, he has taught me to love Spain, to understand its rhythms, its culture, its humor, everything about it. And I owe him a tremendous amount. He's my second Gandalf. Okay. And we're more than friends. We call each other brothers. We're hermanos, right? Okay. So, and here's just a sort of a thing. Over the years, as I said, I've been here more times than I can remember, 20, 30 times, I don't know. Brought my family on occasion. And so I've had these tremendous experiences all over Spain, soaking up the culture and just really immersing myself. And Jorge said to me one day, which meant a tremendous amount, eres un español atrápido en un cuerpo americano. And he wasn't just kidding, right? I mean, he really meant it. And to me, this was the greatest compliment. It means I really had succeeded in my abilities to really become and integrate myself. And so it means a tremendous amount to me. Okay, so just to kind of fast forward. So here I am now, though, and here's a picture of me just a couple days ago at Cobb from CSIC. Why is this important? Well, all of this stuff that I had done for 20 plus years laid a really wonderful foundation of friendships and collaborations and all these other things. But all of those trips were for a week, or a day, or a meeting. And we would make plans about things we would do, but they always had to be done across an ocean. Really hard to do. Really hard to maintain that connection and the big stuff. What I really wanted to do was come here for an extended period of time where I could not just make plans, but actually execute them with my good friends and my scientists, side by side, day after day, in a room, doing good and fun and exciting things. Right? And that's what Fulbright has allowed me to do. Without that, I could not do this. The foundation was there, okay? But the Fulbright has the prestige, the framework, the formalities by which we can make an agreement between our two institutions, where I could convince my institute that it was worthwhile for me to come here and spend time. No, Scott's not just going off to have some joyride in Spain for some period of time, no. And so, you know, this is the culmination of all the foundations that I have worked on. And at the same time, though, as I told my story, you know, there's things that you couldn't have planned on, right? This really was an unexpected journey. Things and coincidences had happened. The fact that Mars program was doing what it was doing at the very same time I was doing things. That Spain just happened to be awarded the Spanish station. That I just happened to be a team member on the rover also with another team. That I put myself in a position where I was in Spain enough that students were coming to me to say, hey, can you be my advisor? That didn't happen to the other Americanos because they weren't there. Right, and they hadn't integrated themselves. So all of these things were wonderful, and I'm just having the time of my life here, right? I'm making great progress on my project, this is important, but just being able to now live here, not as a turista, not as a giri, but as, you know, as an actual pseudo-Spaniard, and being able to soak up every ounce of what Spain has to offer has just been fantastically rewarding. And so thank you to Fulbright, thank you to CSIC, thank you to my institution, thank you to all of you for having such a warm society, welcoming society that has just made all this possible. So that's kind of my journey, and thank you for listening.
This is so nice, Scott, because you just said something that, for my experience, it was basic. Is you don't go to study. You go and you want to get in the society and to feel it and to smell it and to eat it and to develop friendships. And that's mind-changing game, but you have to want to do it.
Yes.
I have just one quick question. When are humans arriving in Mars?
I don't know the answer, but I will say this.
More or less.
More or less.
Approximately.
Yeah. Well, there's a joke, which is that humans will arrive on Mars in 50 years, and we've said that every year for the last 50 years.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
But here's the key point. Going to Mars with humans is more about the will and the money and the desire to do it. There are technological challenges for sure, but it's not prohibited by physics. Like these are things that can be solved. But it takes a lot of planning, long-term planning. It takes a lot of money, and in particular, these things take much, much longer than most political institutions, whether here in Spain or the US or anywhere. Presidents come and go, Congress comes and go, parliaments come and go. It's very hard to execute these very long-term programs when you need a consistent 20 or 30-year funding profile and consistent profile. That's the hard part.
Okay.
So when humans can solve those problems, we will go to Mars.
Okay. It's done. Yeah. Okay. In 50 years time from
50
now.
years, yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Okay. Let me introduce you Daniel Fernández Guevara, currently is a visiting professor at the Instituto Universitario de Investigación de Estudios Latinoamericanos en la Universidad de Alcalá, and he serves as the managing editor of the academic journal Cuban Studies, University of Pittsburgh Press. His interests include Latin American and Iberian history, transnational solidarity, and migration labor. And we have just discovered that we have also this passion for documentary filming.
Yes.
And I must say that other than Columbia University, I had the chance to study in San Antonio de los Baños in Cuba for a very short period. They have a wonderful film school there. And we have discovered that we have this fascination for it. So, Daniel, we'd like to hear about you and about your career and about your story.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone for inviting me, and especially thank you to everyone at Fulbright Spain. I think the first thing that I'd like to say is, you know, when you're looking at it from the United States, you can't imagine that the people who work here, you know, everyone from Alberto, down the line, everybody, Sarah McKenna, who works at Fulbright Spain, really make you feel like you're not a fish out of water. And so I think that is the first thing that I want to say, and how important that is to your success. I had a job offer and the Fulbright. I was weighing both after I finished the PhD, and I can't believe I'm saying this in public, but I said no to the job and I went for the Fulbright. And I think it connects to what Scott just said, which is that I was writing about solidarity and about transnational migration, but I had never been a migrant. And I had never really understood what that kind of solidarity is when you're someone that's outside of your fishbowl. And so I took a leap of faith. Fulbright took care of my family in terms of, you know, the financing, but then when I arrived in CSIC, which there is no institution in the US like CSIC as a public institution like that, and the way it functions, and they also extended to me this family feeling. So the goal was that I wanted to deliver, right? I didn't want to come here and Fulbright give me money and then not finish something. So I had a book manuscript I had to finish, and I finished the book manuscript. And then I'm ending my time, I'm looking to apply to jobs, and then the second year, Fulbright Spain tells me, well, there's this mentorship position open that's available, you should apply. And I applied, and I received it. And I said, this is fantastic. I really like mentoring too. Like, I was texting a mentee of mine right before the last session started. Okay. So these are lifelong relationships. When I teach, I have a mentorship contract for my students that I keep in the drawer that says, what is this relationship? What do we want to get out of this mentoring relationship? And how can we make this positive so that it stays on the positive note always, where it isn't like, oh, this is the professor yelling at the student. Well, I found that everybody comes with a positive energy when they come to Fulbright, so it's very easy to mentor these people. And so that was the second year. But the second year here, I found I had so much time in the archive, kind of following what Scott says, that you start going to an archive as a historian, and you look through the files that you think you're supposed to look through. And after 3 to 4 months, the archivist will tell you, have you been, has estado en este otro archivo? Yo no sabía que eso existía. What is that? I don't know what that is. And then you end up going to that archive, and it allows you to follow lines of investigation that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do if you weren't physically here in Spain. And so this third year, through its CSIC, also through la Universidad de Alcalá, it's been great. I miss teaching, I realized this year. So I'm doing a lot of, guest appearances in classes, which I really enjoy. And I think the Spanish students thus far, I mean, maybe they're writing something, putting some videos on TikTok that I'm not aware of, but they respond, they come to me after class, they talk to me, they want to know about, because our institute, the way that we train students in history in Spain and the United States are quite different. And the way we teach them about being a professional is different, not diametrically, but certainly different. So it's been interesting to kind of let them know that there's different ways of thinking about history, and that I learned from their questions that there are other ways of thinking about history. So now, with the research that I've done, I basically have 2 other book projects that have developed with all this time to go to the archive. And so I think one of those might be published, we'll see, through la Universidad de Alcalá, hopefully. But the opportunities keep coming, and it's because I always have the goal of delivery. So if I said, as CSIC said, if you're going to be here, tienes que participar en la jornada y en los seminarios. I was there participating, all the new stuff that I was finding in the archive. Out of that came an article that was published in the journal of El CSIC. So it's been that, and so it's opened new doors, and I'm so thankful. Now, because of a colleague at the CSIC, I'm going to, I've been invited to go to Paris to basically give a talk, but more importantly, they're going to publish that talk as a book chapter. I've been published, another colleague told me about something in Toronto, so I'm going to be flown to Toronto. Who's paying for these things? It's crazy. And so I have all of these opportunities I think because on the personal level, I want to deliver for the people that believe in me. And then on the other end, I've just found such wonderful people who've been willing to believe in me. And I think that's really the spirit of Fulbright.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. So, yeah, you say that you deliver, but you get fully involved, right? Which is something that it's a commitment. When you receive a grant, a scholarship, or whatever, is part of the whole story. It's not what your plans are or what your project is. It's also being fully involved in what is around. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Lisa Tornavene.
Hi.
Master in Global Higher Education at the Instituto Franklin en 2022. She has lived in Madrid since 2007 and is an Associate Director and Career Coach at EE.UU.
Yes.
Lisa.
I'm going to take a different approach. I'm not nearly as cool as these guys. I've written a speech, and my name is Lisa. It's nice to be with you today. I wanted to get a sense for the audience. How many of you are current students right now? And you're students at Instituto Franklin? Okay. Is anyone here doing the Global Higher Education Masters? It's all right. My message today is applicable to everyone. I swear my computer's turning on. I'm sorry. I should have turned this on earlier. Vamos.
It will eventually.
It will. Two seconds, I promise. And I've timed my speech. It's about 6 minutes, so
good.
It's under the 10.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Tornabene. I'm the class of, I thought I was the class of 2023, but I guess I'm the class of 2022. I don't even remember anymore. In the Master in Global Higher Education at the Instituto Franklin, University. I'm originally from the US, and I've now spent 18 years in Spain, which is a sentence my 23-year-old self would have never believed. Today, I'm an associate director of internal careers programs and a career coach in the talent and careers department at EE.UU University. And I honestly never would have imagined I'd be working for such a global institution, let alone helping shape the next generation of international professionals. And it's something that I'm truly enjoying. But before any of that, I was also a young college grad without much direction who came to Spain thinking I'd have some fun, practice my Spanish, and stay for 1 year. It's been 18. So I arrived in Madrid in 2007. I was 23 years old, and I was convinced I'd sow some wild oats, then go back home to the East Coast to begin my real career, whatever that means. Instead, I became enamored with the culture, the country, and my newfound vocation of teaching. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, my journey of teaching, the masters, and where it's brought me to where I'm at. So let's go back to a September day in 2007. I found myself on my first day of class as an English language and culture assistant. Are any of you doing that right now? Yeah, okay. At a huge primary school in a suburban town outside of Madrid. So sure, I had my TEFL certificate, yeah, but I had no real idea how to teach an actual room full of actual children. Everything felt super different. The school system was different, the rules, the clothes, the food, the fact that the students called me by my first name and not Miss Tornabene. I was shocked at how informal things were. But that day, I was going to teach 5-year-olds, then 8-year-olds, and then teenagers, and in a culture that wasn't my own, with responsibilities I had never before had. And I reflected on this, and I thought about my big turning point from that time in my life, and it came thanks to a veteran teacher at the school. Her name was Gemma, and she was a formidable Southern Spanish woman with a thick accent. She had slick-backed hair, she wore red lipstick and knee-high boots when she taught 5-year-olds. She looked at me, and in front of these 20 very energetic 5-year-olds, she said, "Go ahead, I don't speak English, so this class is all yours." For me, that was a true sink or swim moment, and I decided to swim. So I improvised games and silly voices, I crawled on the floor, honestly, whatever worked, but somehow the kids learned. And when I left that school 2 years later, in my little goodbye card, Gemma wrote to me, "A la chica que se hizo una profesora, que siempre ha sabido ser y estar," or to the girl who became a teacher and who always knew how to show up and to be present, more or less. That really stuck with me, and it made an impact on me. So now I want to fast forward to 15 years after that, and I was still a teacher in Spain, and I'm going to be honest, I had become a good one, actually an excellent one. Teaching was never my plan, but it became the vocation that really shaped me. Along the way, I became a director of studies, and I began hiring, training, designing curricula, practicing leadership, community building, empathy, and intercultural communication. And these are all skills that would later define my career that I'm in currently in ways that I could not yet imagine. But then one day I realized that teaching wasn't the right fit for me anymore. And that was about 3 or 4 years ago. I knew I wanted to stay in education, but in a different capacity. I wanted a little bit more impact, more growth, and more possibilities. So I looked towards universities, not to teach necessarily, but to do like what exactly I didn't know, but I just knew I wanted to change. So a friend and a fellow Instituto Franklin alumna recommended the Master in Global Higher Education at Instituto Franklin. She also works with me now too in my department at IE University. And anyway, I thought, perfect. And I'm gonna be completely honest here. I thought, this is a means to an end. I'm gonna get my master's degree. I'm gonna pivot my career, simple, ya está. Except it wasn't really that simple. I thought it would be cut and dry. I was significantly older than a lot of my classmates. I was in my late 30s, they were in their early 20s. I had more experience, I spoke Spanish, I knew the culture, and honestly, I had a bit of an attitude. And that attitude lasted about 2 hours into my first class session. And then I very quickly saw that if you treat a master's program as simply a checkbox, you will have a very long and very miserable year. So I mentally reframed. If I was going to be the one millennial amongst a sea of Gen Zs, then I knew I would have to rise to the occasion. So I let myself learn from my classmates. I used my experience to support them. And in doing so, and I know this sounds very corny and trite, but I realized how much I was gaining from them too, honestly. An anecdote, for instance, there was a day when I fundamentally, and I mean fundamentally, disagreed with one of my professors' entire approach. I mean, how he was teaching, the message he was imparting, and I was annoyed. But instead of staying annoyed, I turned that disagreement into the spark for my final thesis, for example. And I knew that if I was going to challenge him, it was going to be with research and receipts. And at that moment, it clicked to me. And that's when I realized that there's no single lesson or no perfect outcome from doing a master's or from making a move. The degree and this experience was going to give me exactly what I put into it. And that's my main ethos of what I want to say for the rest of this time. If you give the bare minimum, you're going to get the bare minimum. But if you stretch and you experiment and you collaborate, you step outside of your expectations, the experience can really transform you, both professionally and personally. And I truly believe this. So now I'm going to speak directly to you as the non-Spaniards in the room because I've been in your shoes. No one will force you to learn Spanish. You have to make that effort. You won't just absorb culture just by being here. You have to be curious. And you won't grow if you only do what you already know how to do. Embracing the language and culture of where you are doesn't only enrich your life, but it gives you an edge. And knowing what it feels like to be the outsider, the learner, the one discovering a new culture, that empathy becomes a professional superpower. It's one of the reasons that I thrive in my work now at IE University, because I understand what students are navigating and what a new country feels like. I was one of them at one time. So many of you might believe that you know what you'll do after this degree. Teacher, advisor, administrator, coordinator, and maybe you're right. But I do want to say not to limit yourself to only what feels familiar or logical. I never imagined I would become a career coach, a director, a project manager at a top global university. Yet here I am. And that's partially because of one moment of disagreement with a professor in my master's. That pushed me to explore skills and expand on ideas I didn't know I had. So I want to say that being a foreigner in Spain didn't limit me, but rather it expanded my horizons. It opened doors that I didn't know existed. But I had to put up with a lot of setbacks and obstacles along the way. Nevertheless, it allowed me to reinvent myself in ways that I couldn't have done back home. So I have some pieces of advice that I want to pass on to you. Be constant in your pursuit of your potential. Know that you are never, and I mean never, finished acquiring new skills. Let your plans change. Give yourself permission to reinvent. Don't limit your plans to what you should logically do, but rather apply for the role that you never thought you would go for. Learn the language and experience the culture. Research new techniques and areas of interests. Network, make connections, and don't be afraid to propose and to ask. Remember that opportunities seldom just appear. You have to seek them out. And that's exactly how I got to where I am today. Prioritize what you want and map out the stepping stones of what it will take to get there. And never forget that whether it's your master's degree, your time in Spain, or a job interview, when it comes to your success in the face of challenges, you get out of something what you put into it. And I want you to take this with you for the rest of your time at your master's degree. So I'm wrapping up, I promise. I want to leave you with something another professor from my master's degree at the Instituto Franklin, Not the one I fundamentally disagreed with, another one. She's someone I deeply admire. Her name is Kara. And she told me just yesterday when I asked her for feedback on this speech. This was a woman who, at the time that I was studying, when she was my professor, I thought she had the Spanish dream life fully figured out. She had been in Spain for years. She had established her own education consulting company here. And where is she now? She is my colleague. She joined my department this year, and she made a life change that she never saw coming either. But getting back to her feedback to me on that final message, in response to my speech, and this is a direct quote she wrote to me on Teams, she said, you know, the more I see out there, the more I realize that the book learning is lo de menos, or the least of it. It's all about embracing the experiential side of things and really diving in. So I want to tell you all to dive into Spain, dive into your coursework, dive into your friendships, into the uncertainty of who you might become next, and put into it what you want out of it. If you show up, and I mean really show up, you will leave not just with a degree, but with a new understanding of yourself, your capabilities, and your ever-evolving place in the world. So I want to say it's been a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You're a great career coach.
Thank you. I do that.
And you know what I like? Because the three speeches, opportunities doesn't pop out.
Yes, I was connecting that while they were speaking.
It was absolutely. I mean, it's something you have to decide, make tough decisions at some point.
Yes.
Not exactly what you expected. You have to reframe it. I like that, the way you say it. But it's very nice because it's exactly the same experience. Sometimes you have to bet for something, even if it's not what you expected.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Lisa.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Elizabeth Perry from San Francisco. She currently serves as English Language Assistant Training Coordinator for UCETAM, que es la Unión de Cooperativas de Enseñanza de Trabajo Asociado, de Trabajo Asociado de Madrid, overseeing the development of 140 student teachers across more than 40 schools. She's passionate about cross-cultural exchange and teacher development, and that's the reason why we're here. You're here, and we'd like to listen to your experience.
Can I have that clicker?
Sure.
Does that work? Thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you to Anjali and Julia for inviting me. It's an honor to share this stage with all of you and with all the people that I got to hear speak this morning. I get to give a lot of trainings and formaciones, and I teach in the classroom actively, but it's really different to be on stage talking about yourself. Thanks for listening in advance. So I have been in Madrid now 8 years, which to me sounds a long time. To my mother sounds like a very long time. But looking back, it seems random that I arrived in Madrid, but looking back, I actually have a long history of connections to Spain, and my middle name is Carmen. So I was meant to end up here. As a child, I thought, men, hombres, coche, Carmen, why? But now I realize I was meant to be here. So this is a photo of my grandparents. In 1971, my grandfather was a public school teacher in California, which is where I'm from. And in the 70s, I guess, they gave you excedencia. So he took a year off of teaching, and he went and studied at Complutense in Madrid, 1971. And he brought his 2 kids, including my father, here. Here they're in Paris. I couldn't find a good one of them in Madrid. But that time that they got to be here in Madrid had a huge impact on both my father, my aunt, and my grandparents. And during their whole life, my grandparents hosted exchange students in their house. So this is Segovia. This is 2017 or 18. And this is Javier, who is my Spanish tío, because he was an exchange student with my grandparents when he was 17 years old. He calls my grandparents still every month and says, "Hello, Mom and Dad." He loves them, and they had exchange students from Russia, from Japan, from Brazil, that they stay in contact with. I wanted to bring this up because this topic of bridging cultures is so real. I know a lot of you guys have done exchanges, especially the people in the morning have been in the United States, so you know that it's something that stays with you. You know, not just loving the United States because you love a show that takes place there, but loving it in the way that you love your own country, your own family, right? You love it in a way that you can understand it and understand the people there. So a little bit about my journey, just so that I could help remember. So I grew up in San Francisco, couldn't resist putting my famous bridge on the board, and I studied at University of California, Berkeley. My schools, my public schools in San Francisco were considered failing schools my whole life, but I had amazing teachers who worked so incredibly hard, and I knew growing up that I wanted to either be a teacher or work in education. I thought education policy. While I was studying at Berkeley, I did an internship working at City Hall in San Francisco, which is when I discovered that I didn't speak Spanish, because I hadn't realized that before, I guess, and half of our constituents were Spanish speakers. So I decided I'd go back to school and I would just learn Spanish rapidito, and I started studying education and public policy there. I moved to Colombia and I lived there for a year teaching English, which was a big culture shock. I had studied bilingual education and I did a thesis in history, so the desegregation of San Francisco public schools, but I had never experienced more than classroom observation actually teaching in a school, so it was quite a culture shock. Then I came to Madrid as an auxiliar de conversación. Just like Lisa, just one little year coming here, and I really enjoyed my experience as a language assistant, but I thought, okay, well, one more year, I'll get a master's in enseñanza de español como segunda lengua with Instituto Franklin, and then I'll be ready to go home and teach bilingual education in California. Didn't work out like that, as you guys know. But my time at the Instituto Franklin studying Spanish as a second language, which I've never gotten to actually teach, taught me about Spanish teaching, which I had never gotten to experience in this way. So how teachers are formed as teachers and what Spanish academia is like, and also improved my Spanish a lot. And it also helped deepen my intercultural abilities. Now with my work at UCETAM, which is that, like you said, it's a network, red of schools that are concertados, which are like American charter schools, that are all cooperatively owned. So the school is owned by the teachers and the administrators that work there, which is a really, really cool system, and also, you know, has its complications just like any. At UCETAM, I get to be a professional cultural bridge. So what I do, first, I get to train our language assistants in collaboration with the Universidad Autónoma. So we have a program taught by professors, PhDs in education from the Universidad Autónoma that teach pedagogy and more traditional academic education to our first-year language assistants. And then I teach the second-year course, which is all about lesson plans, reflection, collaboration with other language assistants who teach the same grade levels as they do. So that's one aspect of what I do. And then the main thing that I do is I go into schools, about 32 of them every year, and I do a form of external evaluation. So this is something that's optional for the schools. They choose to do it, but as you guys might be aware, well, if you've taught in the US or you're familiar with the US education system, you might know we're evaluated constantly. Not only do you expect the principal to walk in at any moment, so you don't want to sit down at your desk, but we have our kids, our students do evaluations every year to know how much they're progressing, and also as teachers we usually have observations. And in Spain, we don't have as much of that. I think it's good not to have quite so much, but it's something that we noticed is lacking. So UCETAM developed a evaluation system where we go into the schools. I do the English evaluation part of it. I teach 5-year-olds, second graders, 5th graders, third of ESO, and then first of bachillerato. And one day, we do a big session. I record all the sessions. And then we use a rubric to more or less evaluate their English level. And then also give suggestions about classroom culture. So what we can see in that session of how the students are interacting, how they see English, and then I get to observe a teacher in action and give them as much feedback as I can. And then we also meet with our language assistants. So we have 140 language assistants spread out throughout the region of Madrid in 40 schools. And when I get to go to the schools and talk to them, I get to hear all about how it's going. A lot of the time it's excellent, and a lot of the time there's little things that can be improved, most of the time through communicating a little bit more. The CBC program, which I work with at UCETAM, is really amazing because our language assistants are amazing. They are teaching these kids not just about language, but about their culture, which I know that you guys that are working in schools are doing also. The language assistants that we work with have impacts over thousands of students, tens of thousands of students in our schools overall. And they're teaching them not just the verb to be, but where the Philippines is on a map and why you should love the Philippines and why it's so interesting to get to know things about other cultures. So they're really living the language through our language assistants. And the teachers that I get to observe and I work with are so happy to have this kind of feedback because it's something that is lacking in a lot of our schools, because I have found that in Spain there's less culture of giving kind of clear constructive criticism or clear feedback, which is something that our language assistants in our program are working towards. I totally forgot that I have one more image. So this is something that I told our language assistants this year at orientation, which is I've learned that people will forget what you said and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. People will forget the names of the grammar rules, they'll forget what you even taught them, they won't remember where the Philippines or Iowa or maybe even California is on a map perhaps, but they will remember that with you, they felt seen in the classroom and that you made them think that they want to learn more. You made them feel like they want to maybe travel abroad. And a lot of our schools are low-income schools where they won't get the chance to travel for a long time. But hopefully they'll feel inspired to do so. You know, they feel another culture, not just learn about it. Later, if there's anything more interesting for me to talk about, you can ask me.
Okay, thank you very much. Great quote. So, let me check. Okay, we are...
La mía es muy breve, ¿eh?
La tuya es muy breve.
La mía es muy breve.
Mejor. So we can give a chance.
Of course.
Para un par de preguntas al terminar. Victoria Schober.
Schober.
Sí. It's a lower schools teacher at Brewster American Schools in Madrid. She has completed research on cultural differences in student-teacher relationships in Spain and the United States, which you just mentioned are quite a bit. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, inviting me to this event. I was so happy to come, and then I was very surprised to realize that 3 of my former bosses are also in the room. So I came to Spain first with Fulbright, and that's when I met Alberto. And Alberto, you were just such an incredible director and clearly still are. So thank you so much for the opportunity to build Fulbright over this long period of time and, like we've all mentioned, build these connections and make us all feel so welcome here, because that starts with you as well, so thank you. When I was doing my Fulbright, I lived in Santander and I was learning all about Cabezón de la Sal, and I did not speak a word of Spanish, and so there was a lot of learning that needed to take place there. But I loved it so much. I was so thankful for this experience that I couldn't leave Spain when my Fulbright ended, which is when I met Julia, and so she was my second boss. And I did a master's in international education at the Instituto. Is anyone doing international education? Heyo, nice. So it was wonderful. And what I'd mentioned tonight to Julia as well was thank you again, because after I finished the master's program at the Instituto, she was the one that shared my resume with private schools around the area, and thanks to that I was able to get interviewed and hired at a private school in Madrid. And while working there, I wanted to continue to develop as a teacher and to also find another job. And so I came back to the Instituto, the International Institute, and I met Pilar. And Pilar was kind enough to give me the opportunity to work as an English teacher and then work on and collaborate with her on some projects that we did. So I was a little bit nervous to see all my bosses back here, but just from that experience and now having lived in Spain for almost 15 years, I think going back to the exchanging cultures is I've learned so much humility, because in the past 10, 15 years, I've met so many incredible people through all of these opportunities that it's really helped me be more open-minded and to sort of empty out the ideas that I might already have and make space for more when you're just completely humbled by all of these amazing people that are all around you. And then also to just be able to invest time in people, because so much of the reason I'm here today is because I've learned how important it is just to check in on people and to continue to build your relationships, your social relationships, and to reach out when you need help as well, especially when you're living in a different country. So I'm very thankful to be here today.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Victoria. It's so nice when you realize, I mean, teaching is so important for every society. It's so important to have teachers that are motivated and do really have the sense that they have a mission, that it was really great to listen to you. Okay, so it's your chance now. We just have a few minutes, but since we have more students in this panel, it's a good chance for you to ask any question you're interested in from any of our opponents and their unexpected journey to what has happened with them in these last years and who just so kindly shared with us. So, any of you would like to ask any question? Any remark here?
Thank you to everyone. I think this question applies for everyone, but especially Victoria. I didn't get to hear much about Brewster American Schools, and I'm thinking about a lot of the people in here who are learning a lot about themselves by leaving the United States and being here and falling in love with a new culture. And I'm wondering what you maybe have learned about America and your relationship to it, perhaps, by leaving and by being part of an American school.
Yeah, that's a very good question. What I've learned about America by leaving America is I'm, first of all, very, very grateful to be living in Spain. And I've developed so much, I think I've recognized my privilege so much in being able to live as an immigrant in a country that facilitates the immigration process a little bit more easily, to say it nicely. It has its challenges, of course, but I know that they're doing a lot in Spain to try to expand opportunities for visas and give people more opportunities to pursue a legal immigration status. And when I look back at the United States, I'm just so embarrassed and filled with so much pain and guilt for everyone who's trying to immigrate to the United States and everything, and all the people who are already there. So that's really made me reflect on leaving America and seeing it from a different angle. I don't know if anyone else from the panel would also like to add what you've learned about America by leaving America.
It's a great question, actually. Is there anything you would like to share about what you've learned about your home country with the distance?
Yeah, it actually put the United States, when you're growing up in the United States, you don't think of yourself as an American, per se, right? Do you think regionally? Like, we're both from New Jersey, and so I gave her a big hug because...
So is Scott. Scott was born in New Jersey.
Scott, you were born in New Jersey? Really? Oh, we're gonna hug after this, all of us. But the thing is, you know, you think of the state you're from, I think the same as Spaniards do, right? It's where you're locally from. You don't really think of yourself in that big picture. But being here, I've been more willing to participate in things that are going on there, I think, that I normally would, because I'm like, well, if I'm having this conversation here, it also needs to be had there. And I never thought that I would do that here. I thought I would be, you know, from the archive to but having a transnational conversation about issues that affect all of us. You mentioned migration. I specialize in migration, so some of these conversations are very difficult because they impact people's lives. And so how do you talk to people who don't really know about a subject? I think when you have to step out of your own space. Let me give you an example, a concrete example.
Okay.
Here, to apply to any grant, to any government grant, you know, you have to plan 2030, right? There's a series of goals that you have to find out. One of them is difusión, right? American academic historians, you don't see them at local coffee shops mostly, talking about their subject matters. You don't see them engaging the public mostly. It's like historians are completely disconnected from the conversations, right? I've learned that here, you have to go out and promote what you're doing because it's funded by the state. So you have to force yourself to engage the public in what it is that you're finding. And that has been a huge lesson that I think I've learned that I never would have learned in this way. It's very strange. Even when I worked at foreign film, it was like you edit, it's exhausting, never ending, it's out there, and then it'll come out a year later. It's almost like you're completely disconnected from the kind of conversations you should be having.
Yeah.
And here I see much more conversation about what people are finding. And I think that's an interesting way to look at the United States and say, there's so much wonderful, beautiful research that's being done. Well, let's talk about it more.
Okay, let's put it in the middle. All right.
May I add?
Sure.
Okay. So let me first say that I have benefited tremendously from the opportunities I've had in the United States, right? I wouldn't be here because of that, the education system, and all the opportunities. And what's interesting is you go through the educational system, and there's a name for it, right? You are ingrained with this idea of American exceptionalism, right? Everything we do in the US is the best. Everything, right? And you know, when you go through as a child and you don't know better, you believe this, just as you may believe in Santa Claus, right? If no one tells you otherwise, right? And so one of the things when you come to Spain, in fact, when you travel and you start to leave the country, is you start to realize, you know, America does some things really, really well. But there are other ways, and there are better ways in some cases. And the more you spend time, in my case, or others here in Spain, and you start to understand it, you realize there can be a better way. And in a bigger picture, for example, maybe you do X really, really well in the United States, but if you have to work yourself to death in order to do that, is it really worth it, right? So when you come to Spain and you say, you know, there's a different appreciation here for life and family and friends and the love of just living. That's exceptional, right? That's something that Spain, I mean, there's many other things. And so you start to learn that really all this stuff that you're ingrained with as a child really just doesn't hold. And I think that's true, you know, if you travel anywhere, but it's also, I think, emphasizes the importance of programs like Fulbright and others that give people the opportunity to get out and experience other places and really, if you're honest about it, evaluate whether all the things that you've been taught and experienced in your country really are true. ¿Es verdad? Sí o no? Okay.
Okay. I think we finished our time. I'm so grateful. It has been so inspiring. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here.
Gracias.
And let's hope for the best. Okay.